Chapter 6, Thousand Chance Umbrella. Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. How could the skills chosen for Lord Grimm be laughed at? First, the lower levels went by quickly. Carefully matching skills was completely unnecessary. Many people simply chose to be a piece of blank space, figuring it out after they reached level 20. Second, even though level 20 and under allowed players to figure out their own profession, many incoming players already had a general idea, mage, swordsman, or gunner related. There were players like this, but players like Yishu? They went as far as to tread every class. But although players below level 20 could learn any type of skill, their strength was limited by their weapons. For example, if you learned sharpshooter skill floating bullet, there was no way the skill could be used with a sword. So for Lord Grimm to learn this skill, he would have to carry weapons from every class. Repeatedly exchanging them back and forth would be extremely inconvenient. And for those in the initial stages, looking for so much trouble, wouldn't that be the same as looking for punishment? Only the once popular unspecialized players would do such a thing. What were unspecialized players? They were players without a class. But this was something that happened back when the level cap was 50. When the level cap increased and the class awakening was introduced, the unspecialized type of playing style disappeared. The current players looking at Lord Grimm's skill set would never think of unspecialized people, they would only laugh. Yishu seemed as if he hadn't thought of this. Lord Grimm only had a blank bronze sword on him. And when he passed a random store, Yishu actually also sold this weapon. Soon after, he directly headed to the storage chest in the warehouse and opened it. An equipment unexpectedly lay inside. Accounts that transferred servers should be empty. What empty means is that experience, gold, backpacks, storage chests, and even mail were all empty. But Lord Grimm, which had just transferred to the 10th server, unexpectedly had an equipment inside. No one knew how this happened, but it seemed as if Yishu had been expecting it. He knew that he would find an equipment here, but after finding it, there wasn't a trace of happiness in Yishu's expression. On the contrary, it was filled with grief. A rare tremble once again emerged on his right hand. The last time this appeared was when he lost one autumn leaf. Now, it appeared when he was going to take out this equipment. The mouse moved up. Myriad Manifestation Umbrella, Level 5. Weight, 23 kilograms. Attack speed, 5. Physical attack, 180, magic attack 180. That was it. It didn't even have additional properties. It was practically a blank weapon. But the word color of the Myriad Manifestation Umbrella wasn't white, rather it was silver. In Glory, the tier of an equipment could be seen by the color of the words separated into orange, purple, blue, green, white. White equipment did not have any additional properties. Green tier equipment were given through quest rewards. Blue equipment dropped in dungeons, though a few quests had them too. They were the most mainstream equipment. As for purple and orange equipment, those were high-end goods. Whether it be character or money, players had to be outstanding in some way to obtain them. The silver word color of the Myriad Manifestation Umbrella didn't belong to these 5 colors. If Chen Guo woke up and saw, she would definitely be amazed. Silver, those were only given to self-made equipment. Self-made equipment were a large feature of Glory. They weren't made through manufacturing skills in the game, but through an equipment editor. They were considered endgame content. There was a popular saying in Glory, self-made equipment weren't necessarily powerful, but all powerful equipment were self-made. Self-made equipment could surpass Orange Epic tier equipment. In the professional union, every club invested in a specialized team that researched self-made equipment. The Battle God One Autumn Leaf held the self-made Silver Battle Lance Evil Annihilation. It was an outstanding and famous weapon and one of a kind. A self-made equipment's feature was that it was extremely difficult to create, but each was unique. Only, it could be a unique surpassing peak epic equipment, or it could also be a unique piece of trash. The Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. Was it trash or treasure? If Chen Guo awoke, if she found about the weapon's properties, then she would be able to immediately make a decision. Top quality. Myriad Manifestation Umbrella was truly top quality, surpassing orange equipment of the same level. 180 physical attack and magic attack. That was equivalent to a level 10 orange weapon. But high attack weapons were often heavy and slow. Myriad Manifestation Umbrella wasn't heavy and had an average attack speed of 5. Even compared to level 10 orange weapons, just relying on this point was enough to surpass them. But the weakness was also obvious. Myriad Manifestation Umbrella only had the fundamental attributes with no additional increases. Besides, level 5, this was a level that would be passed in a flash. But Yi Shu did not think of these because he knew that this Myriad Manifestation Umbrella was a true heavenly work. After countless experiments and failure, to be able to create this level 5 Myriad Manifestation Umbrella was already a great accomplishment. A feature of self-made equipment were that after reasoning and planning, they could be continuously upgraded. So self-made weapons could never go out of date and could be continuously upgraded through Equipment Editor. Yi Shu gently retrieved the Myriad Manifestation Umbrella and placed it in Lord Grimm's hands. "Let's start," he said in a low voice and immediately controlled Lord Grimm to the Green Forest dungeon. It looked as if Lord Grimm had heard his command. Green Forest was a 5-person dungeon that required a player to be level 5 to enter. Achievements by players level 10 and above were not valid, meaning that they could not participate in the different leaderboards for this dungeon. Numerous open parties sat outside the dungeon. When Lord Grimm arrived, he received quite a few invitations. Yi Shu didn't carefully choose and picked a team that needed one more person. Nice, nice, nice. Just as he entered, Yi Shu heard that party leader Sleeping Moon shouting. "How are we going to split the drops from the hidden boss?" Yi Shu asked. Oh, how thoughtful, from Sleeping Moon speaking without thinking. It looked like he wasn't a newbie. At least, he didn't ask what a hidden boss was. The party had to be formed to have a chance at meeting the hidden boss. The system would give a few hints on entering the dungeon. The hidden boss's strength was stronger than the dungeon's final boss by a bit, but equipment that wouldn't be dropped by a normal boss could burst out from it. Actually, with Yi Shu's peak professional level, he had enough skill to solo the small dungeon. Forming a party was necessary to meet the hidden boss though. He also wanted the materials dropped by the hidden boss because those would definitely be needed to upgrade the Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. Yi Shu understood clearly. Compared to leveling up Lord Grimm, upgrading the Myriad Manifestation Umbrella was much harder. He decided that he would start now. In low-level dungeons such as Green Forest, no matter how good of an equipment was dropped, it would soon die out, so it had no value. Apart from experience, materials dropped from the hidden boss attracted players. These materials would never grow out of date. Even in the old servers, there were many people that entered Green Forest for these materials. Sleeping Moon evidently knew of this, so he quickly announced the distribution proposal. Everything dropped by that toy is worth money, so everything dropped will be decided by rolling dice. Okay, he could only say this. How could he take them all for himself? This was a wild party. There were no grounds to. Good. Now that we're all ready, let's go, Sleeping Moon said. After receiving everybody's reply, he entered. Yi Shu had been talking to Chen Guo, so he hadn't put on headphones. Now, he took them out and put them on. Just as he entered the dungeon, he heard a roar, Minnesota. What luck! A hidden boss already. Chapter 7, Midnight Phantom Cat. Glory supported speech and it was extremely lifelike. Only one individual spoke at present. The system had a sound-spreading algorithm. The distance directly influenced how loud or quiet the sound was. The game didn't have any background noise. Only the wind blowing across the grass and other similar sound effects could be heard. When the headphones were put on, it felt like he had become a part of the world. Yi Shu guessed that the person shouting was Sleeping Moon. He had already found the hidden boss Midnight Phantom Cat's location. Yi Shu typed out a ha and heard Sleeping Moon's voice. Speak, why type? There's someone sleeping, so it's inconvenient. After Yi Shu typed it out, he fished out a cigarette from his pocket. He held it in between his lips crookedly and lit it. Oh, Sleeping Moon indicated that he understood and followed. What about everyone else? The other three all said something. Sleeping Moon said disappointed, no pretty girls. Within the sounds of laughter, the team set off. Green Forest was a low-level dungeon to let players familiarize with the game. How hard could it be? What's more, Sleeping Moon obviously wasn't a newbie. He directed the whole journey and killing was smooth and unhindered. After Yishu made Lord Grimm cast 2 heals, Sleeping Moon immediately used him as a priest, turning him into a pure support role. Actually, this type of low-level dungeon didn't need this type of iron triangle battle tactic, but Sleeping Moon was already used to it and directed it as if it were a normal routine. He himself became the main tank in the party though. The other 3 players were in the front lines dishing out damage. Lord Grimm was appointed to the rear and he became the big logistics leader. Killing and shouting sounds could be heard between the 5-person party as they advanced quickly. Yishu's excellent technique handling received the team leader's unbridled praise. Yishu's mind was in a daze. When was the last time he went in a dungeon with other players? How long had it been since he had this sort of feeling? Seeing the monsters collapse one by one, Yishu's mind drifted off. He recalled all too well. Adventuring in the Green Forest made him remember of those memories from 10 years ago. At that time, he played Glory with his good friend. He would never forget those memories. You saw clearly, spoke well, planned well, but in the end, because of a single unexpected accident, your dreams and hopes all disappeared into nothing, leaving only this incomplete myriad manifestation umbrella to me. You originally had talent in Glory, a successful talent. His fingers gently wiped over the keyboard. With a quiver, Lord Grimm cast a heal onto Sleeping Moon's body. When Sleeping Moon promptly praised him again, Yishu's mind was no longer in the game. Okay, here comes the Midnight Phantom Cat. After Sleeping Moon cut down a monster, Yishu heard the 3 words Midnight Phantom Cat and his train of thought immediately returned. The hidden boss didn't necessarily have to appear after completely finishing the stage. Following the system's guidance, a scene may appear midway. This time, the Midnight Phantom Cat would appear here. The Midnight Phantom Cat's attack may cause you to enter a cursed state. But being cursed isn't something to be scared of. However, this animal is quick, so it might take a while for me to aggro it. Everyone start supporting me, don't be panicked and stay together. Sleeping Moon arranged a tactic. Everyone nodded his head and Yishu didn't say anything. There was nothing wrong with what the party leader said. The system hasn't announced it yet. Comrades, we might be the first in the 10th server to kill a hidden boss, Sleeping Moon excitedly said, raising everyone's morale. Forward, Sleeping Moon ordered and the 5 continued advancing. Black clouds covered the sun, casting a gloom over the green forest. Everyone's footsteps in the forest could be distinctly heard. No one said a thing, everyone put their full attention onto the surroundings. Fallen sun. There's no need to keep looking at the sky. The Midnight Phantom Cat's not going to fall from up there, Sleeping Moon suddenly said. Glory was in a first-person perspective. The screen basically showed a perspective from a real human's perspective. Because the particulars were so outstanding, when looking up at the sky, the character had to lift up his head. Sleeping Moon kept seeing everyone constantly lifting their heads, so he couldn't help but point it out. Ha ha ha, everyone laughed. Yishu suddenly heard a rapid rustling sound from within the forest. This type of sound wasn't from footsteps. It was from the rubbing sound between a body and leaves. It's here. Yishu saw that typing might have been slow, so he immediately yelled vaguely. His mouth still held onto the cigarette. Meanwhile, his fingers lightly tapped twice and Lord Grimm leapt back and turned around in a single breath. He had already pinpointed the Midnight Phantom Cat's general direction. Everybody saw Lord Grimm's movements and knew that it was this comrade that immediately warned them at this pivotal moment. Everyone retreat back, Sleeping Moon shouted, yet he himself didn't move back. He wanted to become the Midnight Phantom Cat's first attack target. After the other 3 retreated back and stood beside Lord Grimm, they maintained a certain distance from Sleeping Moon. Everyone held their breaths and stared, but the rustling sound made by the Midnight Phantom Cat had unexpectedly stopped. What? Right when team member Fallen Sun said these 2 words, a black shadow flew out along with a shrill cat shriek. The first attack really did fall onto Sleeping Moon. Good timing. Sleeping Moon stood without a trace of fear and brandished his sword. The Midnight Phantom Cat had a small body and moved quickly. This type of monster tested a player's precision. Yishu had figured out these 4 players' skills long ago. He guessed that aggroing the Midnight Phantom Cat would take a bit of time. He was even a little skeptical, thinking that his healing might snatch away the enemy. Only it wouldn't be a problem if that happened. Yishu alone was enough to deal with a Midnight Phantom Cat. In the end, Sleeping Moon's ability burst forth. His sword timing was quite precise and sliced down just as the Midnight Phantom Cat missed hitting thin air. Moreover, he quickly executed a roll to avoid the Phantom Cat's pounce, saving a heal from the already prepared Lord Grimm. Although the Midnight Phantom Cat missed, it reacted extremely quickly. It turned over its body and scratched again with its claw. Sleeping Moon erected his sword blade to block it. Dong! The sword knocked against the cat's claw and Sleeping Moon slid back half a step. He immediately raised his sword ready to attack again. Beautiful. Yi Shu couldn't help but praise him. Sleeping Moon had used the Blade Master skill block with perfect timing. His counterattack wasn't the least bit sloppy either. Although his leading skills were superb, he hadn't expected this. Did he make an error in judging him? This Sleeping Moon's skill was above his expectations. Sleeping Moon knocked back the Phantom Cat and followed up with an earth-shattering thrust. Afterwards, he pounced at it and chopped down with a dark violet sword light. This combo made everyone cheer loudly. Sleeping Moon didn't give it time to recover and slashed twice in quick succession. He shouted, "Slaughter it!" The 3 team members were already prepared. They immediately brandished their weapons and unleashed all of the skills they had learned. Sleeping Moon no longer needed to dodge left and right and mixed in with the others. Relying on Lord Grimm's healing, they trapped the Midnight Phantom Cat into a steady position. The situation looked good. The Midnight Phantom Cat let out cries wave after wave. Everyone was extremely happy. Those 3 new players had already figured out, from Sleeping Moon's explanation, the value of the hidden boss. Everyone looked forward to the Midnight Phantom Cat would drop. But Yi Shu thought differently. Red blood. Keep up the healing. The Midnight Phantom Cat's life quickly dropped to under 10%. Players all called this status red blood. A lot of bosses will have a few new patterns when they reach red blood. Green Forest was only a newbie dungeon. Bosses didn't have any special abilities, but the Midnight Phantom Cat was different because it was a hidden boss. It wouldn't be one if it didn't have any special abilities. But Midnight Phantom Cat's transformation was relatively simple. It went berserk, letting its attack speed and damage increase. Thus, the pressure for healing also increased during this period. Yi Shu guessed that with Sleeping Moon's skill, if he dodged a bit, killing it wouldn't be that hard. Who would have guessed that this guy would continue to directly fight the Midnight Phantom Cat? Moreover, his counterattacks looked a bit held back. No mana? Yi Shu swept across the party panel. It clearly wasn't the problem. Then this Sleeping Moon's sudden change to not trying now confirmed his prior thoughts. Just when Yi Shu was about to warn them, he heard Sleeping Moon shout, F***CK. OT 1. Dash 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 dash. One off tank aggro goes off main tank and onto other party members. Chapter 8, A Life and Death Struggle. The Midnight Demon Cat suddenly tackled, flinging aside Sleeping Moon. It clawed at the nearby party member Fallen Sun. Ah. So sorry, Fallen Sun was by himself. How could he have avoided the swift attack? Only then did Sleeping Moon hastily apologize. This was all because Sleeping Moon had taught these 3 newbies all along the way. He had definitely taught them the chance of an OT1 mistake could not be blamed on the MT2. Stop. Don't attack it, Sleeping Moon told Fallen Sun to immediately stop attacking. He rushed up to aggro it again. Who could know that after clawing at Fallen Sun a few times, the Midnight Demon Cat would pounce towards a different party member. F***CK, a chain OT, are you kidding me? Sleeping Moon angrily roared. The party member that was being attacked just stood there confused. He was also a mage wearing cloth armor. Being clawed by the berserk Midnight Demon Cat was disastrous. His life crashed down, but Yi Shu reacted beyond fast. He immediately ordered Lord Grimm to begin casting a heal. But some things couldn't be solved relying on skills. A cloth-armored mage resisting a berserk hidden boss's attack, how long could he keep him alive? The answer came quickly, 7 seconds. Lord Grimm's heal was still on cooldown, and the berserk Midnight Demon Cat tore him apart smoothly. Sleeping Moon pounced over to rescue him, but couldn't aggro it back fast enough and the mage died. In Glory, when a player died in a dungeon, he would be forced to leave the dungeon and wouldn't be able to come back. In other words, the original 5-member party became a 4-member party. F***CK, lining up to OT. You guys are killing me, Sleeping Moon crumbled. After the mage died, the demon cat did not get aggroed back to him and instead sharply clawed at the third member. The third member was also a cloth-armored mage, but this time, Yishu didn't order Lord Grimm to heal him and instead healed Fallen Sun. Using heal could only save him from death for 7 seconds, but these 7 seconds were crucial to Fallen Sun. This was because other than the attack speed and damage increase from the Berserk status, the Midnight Demon Cat also had an additional ability, Bleed. The Midnight Demon Cat had unfortunately made Fallen Sun bleed. Yishu had paid attention to his declining life bar. Even if he healed the mage, it would only be for 7 seconds. In these 7 seconds, not only would the mage die but Fallen Sun would die too. He might as well try to save one of them. Yishu had lost faith in Sleeping Moon and directly abandoned the mage to heal Fallen Sun. This sudden act made Sleeping Moon extremely angry and he roared, "Why are you healing him?" Yishu didn't reply. Without assistance, that mage collapsed in an instant. While Sleeping Moon angrily cursed at him, the Midnight Demon Cat pounced onto Fallen Sun without hesitation. Fallen Sun, scared witless, meekly asked, "Attack." "Hit him, you *********************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************************** pull aggro. 13 seconds. Yishu calculated a time. He couldn't tell if Fallen Sun had bad luck attached to him. Right when the bleed status wore off, the Midnight Demon Cat swiped at him again, causing him to bleed yet again. These types of status-inducing attacks only had a small probability to appear. But it seemed as if someone added a 100% probability halo around Fallen Sun. Cursed, bleed, every status effect that the Midnight Demon Cat could give, he possessed. 13 seconds. This was the amount of time Yishu could keep Fallen Sun alive for. In this time, Sleeping Moon could pull aggro and save him. But what was Sleeping Moon doing? That sharp Sleeping Moon that began the battle was now always hitting as if his hands kept slipping. Slice after slice, his sword hit nothing. In the middle of his cursing and yelling, Fallen Sun finally collapsed. The Midnight Demon Cat finally attacked Sleeping Moon. Lord Grimm was considered the least threatening because Yishu's skill was too good. He didn't make any unnecessary operations, so the aggro range only covered a small circle. Brother, stand your ground. Do you still have mana? Sleeping Moon encouraged and welcomed him. You should be the one to stand your ground, Yishu typed out. Don't worry. Us two match well. Beating it down won't be a problem, Sleeping Moon heroically said. In the end, his hands slipped again and the sword hit air. The Midnight Demon Cat clawed at his face. ADD, Sleeping Moon wildly howled. No response. Lord Grimm had been healing promptly and well the entire time. But at this time, he didn't cast a heal onto his body. I can't add. It'll OT, Sleeping Moon saw what Lord Grimm typed. Sleeping Moon suddenly turned his head and saw Lord Grimm leisurely sitting under a big tree and coldly looked at him. Sleeping Moon realized the situation wasn't looking too good. This Lord Grimm wasn't a newbie. It was still early for it to go OT. How could he have made such an error? It won't go OT. Hurry up and add, Sleeping Moon could only yell this. But in the end, there still wasn't any reaction. The Midnight Demon Cat had already reached him. Sleeping Moon's reaction suddenly quickened. He sliced horizontally and blocked the claw. He immediately leapt and began skillfully attacking as he had been when he first began the battle. Sleeping Moon suddenly stopped missing. But this time, his combo hadn't been as smooth because it was a Berserk Demon Cat this time. Sleeping Moon's movements almost couldn't keep up with its increase in attack speed and damage. After leaping up, his combo attack finally missed and the Demon Cat bit down. Hurry up and ADD, Sleeping Moon was worried now. Although he could fight better than the cloth-armored mage and Fallen Sun, he wasn't unequaled. Add what? Add life. What does add life mean? I only see that you're bleeding. Sleeping Moon was beyond angry. What a pity, if you could fight the hidden boss. Then, you could have rotated the party order and leader. That way, team members wouldn't leave their posts and the hidden boss would have been yours. Only how regretful. Your skill isn't good enough, so you needed to rely on others to kill the boss. As a result, you deliberately aggroed it properly at first and then let the boss OT at the right time. The other team members would have been wiped out, leaving you with a low health boss to solo. The items also would have certainly been yours. Whether or not you could finish the dungeon wasn't important at all compared to the hidden boss. After Lord Grimm sent out these two messages, Sleeping Moon's forehead broke out in a cold sweat. He didn't think that this guy, who had only said a single sentence along the way, had seen through his entire plot. Correct, he had let the demon cat OT onto the other three members to kill them. His original plan was while the healer was still frantically healing the other three members, he would have the boss aggro onto him. But he didn't think that Lord Grimm would suddenly give up healing. Could it be that this guy had seen through his own plan at that time? That guy, he knew that he couldn't save anyone else, so he deliberately controlled the aggro so that it wouldn't fall on him. Could it be that he wouldn't heal him and let him die under the midnight demon cat's claws? Brother, Sleeping Moon saw that this person wasn't a virtuous crop and immediately began trying to persuade him. For now, let's not argue about this matter. It's not like you know those three players. Let's team up to beat this demon cat. We'll each have a 50% chance of getting each of the items, isn't that pretty good? 50%. I like 100%. Fine, Sleeping Moon grinded his teeth, materials won't usually be the only drops. When the time comes, you first take your pick and I'll give up on it. Everything else, let's roll die for. I can give all the equipment to you too. Without the assistance of heals, Sleeping Moon knew that he definitely wouldn't be able to beat the boss. He could only say this. Who could believe this? Then what's your proposal? Sleeping Moon immediately answered. His life had already dropped to half. He couldn't deal with the demon cat after it turned berserk. Having to negotiate with Yishu only made it more difficult. He had already secretly written down Lord Grimm's name. He swore that he would definitely humiliate this guy one day. You don't need to worry about what I'm thinking. Be at ease and drop dead. You're crazy. If I'm dead, wouldn't you be dead too? Then, no one would be able to take the items, only a quarter of his health remained. Friend, there's no need to get into a life and death struggle, only a fifth of his health remained. You're an idiot, a seventh. Lord Grimm, you haven't gone mad, have you? Do you know my full moon guild strength? 1/9. You're finished, 1 hit point. F***CK, the midnight demon cat clawed down and the world turned quiet. Lord Grimm had not moved up until now. But he also hadn't escaped. After settling the matter with Sleeping Moon, he immediately pounced over. Yishu laughed faintly. His left hand flew across the keyboard, hitting a few keys, and his right hand moved the mouse. Lord Grimm brandished the myriad manifestation umbrella and opened it. Furthermore, he opened it extremely exaggeratedly and the umbrella actually flipped the other way. He retracted the umbrella a bit and now the myriad manifestation umbrella looked like a lance. The lance-like umbrella had already whooshed towards the midnight demon cat. Battle Mage skill, Dragon Tooth. -- 1 off tank. 2 main tank. Chapter 9, Yishu's Two Hands. Chen Guo actually didn't have a habit of pulling all-nighters. Only, today was the opening of a new server, so she came to see the liveliness. After seeing it, she quickly grew sleepy and fell back on her chair only half conscious. This type of sleep quality was obviously quite poor. It was just that Chen Guo was too lazy to get up. In this half-asleep, half-conscious state, her ears couldn't help but drift to the frantic keyboard tapping and mouse clicking sounds. To a boss at an internet cafe, these sounds were very familiar to her. But the sounds Chen Guo heard were somewhat different. These sounds were hurried and then slow, gentle and then heavy. Hearing this mechanical rhythm, Chen Guo had never thought that the tapping of a keyboard and mouse could sound like drums. Was she dreaming? Chen Guo suddenly woke up and listened again carefully. It seemed like it truly wasn't a dream. These sounds came from beside her, from that newly hired network manager, Yishu. Chen Guo sat up wanting to see, and the jacket slid off of her body. She promptly grabbed it and recognized it as Yishu's jacket. It looks like this person's quite attentive, Chen Guo said secretly. Only, how long has this jacket not been washed? It's kinda smelly. Chen Guo picked up the jacket and sat down. Right when she was about to talk to Yishu, she all of a sudden sat there dumbfounded. A pair of hands that made people's cheeks stream with tears appeared in front of her eyes. Yishu's two hands. These two hands looked extremely thin. His fingers were long and slender and his joints weren't rough like ordinary males were. His fingertips were thin and his fingernails were clean and tidy. This was completely inconsistent with his sloppy outer appearance. Chen Guo had originally never been a very attentive person. But after a lady with extremely beautiful hands came to the internet cafe, she became influenced and gradually began paying attention. Now, she was astonished by Yishu's two hands. The hands were beautiful hands. The tapping sounds were also like music. But his actions, Yishu's left hands bounced around on the keyboard. Chen Guo only had one feeling, his hands moved extremely slowly. Hand speed, the amount of actions done in a certain amount of time, usually counted in minutes, were abbreviated as APM. Glory wasn't a strategy game. Players only controlled a single character, but skill usage was complicated. As a result, the number of fine actions that needed to be done were high, so high hand speed was a must. A player with a high hand speed made quick and meticulous moves. The strength and duration of each keystroke all directly influenced the extent that the in-game character moved. These changes added further complexity to battles. Only, these types of good or bad changes had differences. For example, some people only raised their APM to look good and never stopped making actions. But making every action count and having high APM, only pro-level players could do. 200 APM. This was the publicly recognized skill level divide in Glory. When ordinary players tried to go above 200 APM, they were basically hitting their keys randomly. Even for pro gamers, going above 200 APM needed a certain battle scenario. The level of the opponent couldn't be too weak, so that they needed to go over 200 APM to fight. For ordinary players, 70% of the players were between 80 to 120 APM, 25% couldn't even reach 80 APM and the other 5% exceeded 120. Though among experts, 5%, it is said that there was no lack of players that could reach 200 APM, that professional level of skill. Chen Guo's hand speed hovered around 120 but could exceed that under certain circumstances. Therefore, Chen Guo believed that she was among that 5%, an expert among ordinary players. But for Yishu, Chen Guo didn't doubt that his APM hadn't even reached 80. Right when she noticed this, Chen Guo suddenly found that that rich rhythmic tapping sound also disappeared. The sounds she had heard could only be heard so distinctly because of his slow movements. Am I dreaming again? Chen Guo shook her head. She wanted to hear that previous dreamy sound, but found that it wouldn't appear no matter how hard she listened. The hands she noticed now operated as if they were disabled, yet were also hands that made people jealous. Chen Guo was now engrossed in these two hands so much that she even forgot to look at the screen. But soon, Yishu's two hands stopped. Only then did Chen Guo react and look at the screen. She immediately widened her eyes. Midnight Phantom Cat. After saying this, the Midnight Phantom Cat had already fallen down from up above, dropping numerous items. And at this moment, Chen Guo saw an eye-grabbing system announcement flash through the screen. 10th server, Midnight Phantom Cat first hidden boss kill, Lord Grimm. Minnesota, Chen Guo slapped her hands onto Yishu's back. You have real skill. It didn't matter whether his hands were disabled or not. To be able to be the first one to kill, this was something that Chen Guo had never achieved before. Right when Yishu was about to look at the dropped items, this slap truly came unexpectedly. It almost made him swallow the cigarette in his mouth. In the end, only a strand of silver-white smoke fell freely onto the keyboard. Chen Guo, who had originally been peeking at how Yishu worked, saw this scene. Everything about being the first to kill the hidden boss had already been completely forgotten. She pulled at Yishu's headphones and snarled next to his ear, "Who let you smoke here?" The cigarette in Yishu's mouth hadn't been extinguished yet. He didn't really understand what Chen Guo meant. No smoking, did you not see that? Chen Guo pointed at the wall. Yishu turned his head and carefully examined the two words on the wall. Are you kidding me? No smoking at an internet cafe? This area is no smoking. The smoking area is on the other side, Chen Guo pointed. Then let's go over, Yishu said. No, smelling smoke makes my head hurt, Chen Guo said. Then what do we do? Yishu looked as if he had encountered an impossibly difficult problem. You can't smoke one less cigarette, Chen Guo furiously said. I can't or my head will hurt, Yishu said. Chen Guo discovered that she had begun to understand this Yishu. Although he could casually accept living in that tiny storage room, he was definitely not an easy person to deal with. I'll go to the smoking area myself then. Boss, you should go rest, Yishu said at this moment. Wait a second, you never said how you got the first kill, Chen Guo said. Nothing much. The team all died. The boss's life was low. It was easy pickings, Yishu said quite casually. Oh, so it's like this? Chen Guo's tone still carried admiration. The reward for being the first one to kill this sort of low-level hidden boss wasn't special. It was at most some extra experience and money. There wouldn't be any top-quality equipment. But this would be forever recorded on the standings and he would be a legend on this server. A lot of players liked this sort of feeling. To the majority of ordinary players, getting on this sort of standing could only happen in the beginner levels. Once the dungeons became harder, no matter if it was a regular or a hidden boss, killing it required a certain amount of skill to beat. When they got to the heavenly domain, even those highly skilled teams had no chance. All of the records there were set by professional teams. Chapter 10, Shameless Novice. What did it drop? Envious, Chen Guo moved closer to see what the Midnight Phantom Cat dropped. 5 cat fingernails, trash, 1 cat fur breastplate, might as well wear it, low-leveled equipment aren't important, 2 midnight cat nails, 1 midnight cat claw, 1 midnight opal. Okay, not bad. Hidden boss materials are definitely worth a lot of money, 1 skill book, damn, what type of luck is this? Although Chen Guo had yelled it, Yishu was also astonished. For a low-leveled hidden boss to drop a skill book, what type of good luck was this? What was a skill book? It wasn't used to unlock new skills. It increased skill points. Its value could be seen just by looking at the orange-colored words. This was one method to exceed 4,000 skill points. But this item couldn't be traded, so using money to buy it wasn't possible. It could only be obtained through luck. The book Lord Grimm picked up didn't add much, only 5 points. But to have it drop from a hidden boss, it was still ridiculously lucky. The skill book that had just been dropped was used in an instant. Among the materials dropped from the Midnight Phantom Cat, the Dark Opal and the Midnight Cat Nails were materials needed to complete the Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. Yishu's mood was good. He unexpectedly let Lord Grimm immediately leave the dungeon. You're not going to finish it? Chen Guo astonished. Although Lord Grimm was the only remaining member of the party, this type of newbie dungeon could easily be soloed. Even though she knew of Yishu's disabled level APM, Chen Guo didn't think that his skill level was that low. For him to destroy her opponent that she lost to 52 times in 40 seconds, this accomplishment had just recently happened. I need to change computers. Yishu had already been prepared to leave the game. Chen Guo glimpsed at the screen and suddenly shot her hand to stop him. Wait a second, what situation is this? She only saw on the chat window a wall of identical messages. The shameless novice Lord Grimm, in order to steal the hidden boss for himself, didn't heal the party members on purpose and let them die. Everyone be careful. The shameless novice Lord Grimm, in order to steal the hidden boss for himself, didn't heal the party members on purpose and let them die. Everyone be careful. These identical messages mixed together with other anger and hate. Although the system automatically blocked profanities, people's intelligence were boundless. They used same-sounding words to complete their mission. TL note, if you guys are interested in what this means, https://en.wikipedia.org/wiki/baidu_10_mythical_creatures. Yishu looked at them carefully and found the name Sleeping Moon among these spammers. He even saw the other party members Shutting Sun and a mage. Because he was the first one to come out, he actually reversed what was right and wrong. How could it be like this? Chen Guo asked Yi Shu. Yi Shu, helpless, could only explain it to her. Minnesota. Shameless. How shameless? Chen Guo raged when she heard this. Yeah, too shameless, Yi Shu said. Why aren't you mad? Chen Guo was baffled. I'm very angry, Yi Shu said. Are you angry? How come I can't see it at all? Chen Guo was puzzled. This Yi Shu stared at the screen looking at the wall of slander, but his face hadn't changed at all. Just because I'm angry doesn't mean I have to show it. Yi Shu didn't look angry. He was even smiling. While doing so, he logged out of the game and shut down the computer. Changing over to the smoking area was still his current ambitious dream. What type of person are you? I turn my head and then there are suddenly so many events. You meet a hidden boss, a skill book drop, and even formed enemies. Tomorrow morning I'll see if you're dead, Chen Guo said. See you later, boss. Chen Guo went to rest while Yi Shu went to the smoking area. As expected, a blanket of smoke lingered around in this area. Even the high-frequency frantic ventilation had no way to purify the air around here. It could only limit the smoke's assault on the non-smoking area. These smokers also didn't have any emotion towards secondhand smoking. Yi Shu also lit up a cigarette at once, blending in with the sea of smokers. Sweeping across the area, he saw that this place was clearly more crowded than the non-smoking area. When pulling all-nighters, very few could do so without the stimulation from a cigarette. It was good that the internet cafe was large enough. Yi Shu turned around and found an open computer. Without choosing carefully, he went over and sat down. Happy Internet Cafe was relatively high class. There was a small wall between every computer station to protect people's privacy. Even if they didn't, everyone was wearing headphones and immersed in glory. No one paid any attention to outside matters. Yi Shu re-logged into the game and put on his headphones. Lord Grimm was still sitting outside Green Forest. Even though the place was overcrowded with people, it wasn't so noisy that he couldn't hear anything from his earphones. There was no difference between walking here and walking into a bustling market. It wasn't so lively that he couldn't hear what others were saying. As for those players constantly spamming to join a party, those could be drowned out. Yi Shu's eyes swept over the chat box and saw that the messages about Lord Grimm had already disappeared. Finding out when a character went offline was possible through a certain game function. Sleeping Moon was a veteran, so he was already familiar with these sort of methods. After Lord Grimm had gone offline, he stopped with the messages. Only players over level 20 could leave the beginner area. When that happened, parking would be opened up. In the meantime, those level 20 and under could only point fingers and argue. But Sleeping Moon was now being quite malicious. Lord Grimm appeared on the first hidden boss kill announcement, so everyone learned about him. When Sleeping Moon raged using his name, it was very easy for people to take note of it. As a result, Lord Grimm couldn't find a party to join. All of his requests were all totally denied. Even if players didn't actually believe in Sleeping Moon's remarks, they had already started to defend against Lord Grimm. Yi Shu could only helplessly laugh. When he formed a party, he truly only came for the hidden boss. He needed those materials. But now that he couldn't form a team, his leveling speed would only increase. In Glory's dungeons, the fewer the people the more the experience. Efficiency had to be considered though, so in the end, having more people was more effective. But Lord Grimm was different. He held the silver level 5 Myriad Manifestation Umbrella. For regular players, they mostly relied on blue and green equipment. When compared to the Myriad Manifestation Umbrella, blue and green equipment were inferior by 3 to 4 grades. In Glory, every grade was equal to 5 levels. In other words, the Myriad Manifestation Umbrella was equivalent to a level 20 blue or a level 25 green weapon. This superiority in the low-level stages of the game could be considered overpowered. Because the damage done by Lord Grimm's weapon was equivalent to 4 or 5 weapons. Adding in the influence by a character's attributes, Lord Grimm was equivalent to 3 people. Furthermore, with Yi Shu's skills, he wouldn't be slower in clearing a dungeon than a 5-man team. He might even be a bit faster. Lord Grim began walking, ready to enter the dungeon. But after a few steps, a player suddenly blocked his way. Yishu looked and it was actually Sleeping Moon. To be able to find him in this crowd of people, this guy has sharp eyes. Hello, hello. Yishu lifted his headphones up and down, testing to see if the message went through. Hello, my ***. Sleepy Moon wasn't polite in the slightest.